get out of that ugly slide and into this beautiful rendered scene that I can take absolutely no credit for building. So this is our forest scene, right? And this is a great example of a scene that Nanite is going to dislike in comparison to other scenes. Now, in order for us to understand why, we need to understand how Nanite works. So let's take a look at one of our buffer visualizations. So these visualizers allow us to kind of see all of the back-end processes that Nanite's doing, and it's going to allow us to have a bit of a better understanding. So I'm going to turn on Overdraw. If you have sunglasses, put them on now. Otherwise, squint your eyes a little bit. It's going to get bright. Yeah, sorry about that. So this is our Overdraw preview of our scene. Now, this is why our foliage scenes tend to run worse in comparison to more rock-based scenes. You can see we've got our rocks here, and they're rendering in purple. Purple's good. We like purple. And then above, we have this absolute explosion, right, of white and yellow. And that is representative of our overdraw. And by overdraw, we mean rendering triangles one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other, okay? Now, what we want is to kind of reduce that, but how do we go about doing that? Now, what I want to do is explain how this stuff works a bit more. So in order to do that, it's important for us to look at the assets that Nanite does like. It's important to look at the assets where Nanite works well, right? Now, this is my rock asset that I've got here. It's 2 million triangles. And this is the kind of asset that Nanite likes. But why? So the first reason is that it is contiguous geometry, right? That is geometry that is connected together to form a single mesh. Now, it doesn't have to be a single mesh, but the more joined that geometry is together, the better. And the reason for that is because, and again, we need to dispel some of those myths, Nanite is not about you bringing in any mesh you want and it just rendering it, right? That's not what Nanite's doing. It is effectively drawing what it needs to draw to give you the best representation of that asset from that particular view. So if we go to our buffer visualization and we take a look at our clusters are a really good representation because they show you how the asset has been broken down. This is what Nanite does when you import an asset in. It takes that mesh and it splits it into thousands and thousands of little clusters, right? Each of those representing a group of triangles. Now, if you've ever used something like Blender or Maya or Max or ZBrush, you've probably done some decimation, right? You've taken the decimation tool and you've just knocked it down to try and simplify the geometry on that asset. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here, except we're doing it at a much, much more granular level. So when I zoom out of this asset, we're just going to come back a little bit and then I can kind of zoom in and out. You can see that those clusters start to get bigger and bigger as I get further away, and then smaller and more granular as I get closer. And what we're doing here is we're streaming in and out these individual clusters at this granular level, in and out, to give us the best representation of the mesh at that particular moment. So that means that when we've got our camera like this, we're only rendering this little bit here, right? But we're rendering at a very, very high fidelity. And that's how Nanite's working. It's very fun, streaming that data in.